Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm the chairperson of our today's debate. The motion is Uganda as a landlocked country sharing a border with Kenya should be granted the right to own and share access to the Indian Ocean with Kenya. Uganda is a landlocked country in East Africa. It has no coastline or ocean. And our motion says that since Uganda doesn't have any ocean, they should share with whether they should share with Kenyans. This side will say that they should share with Kenyans, and this side will say that no, they shouldn't share with the Kenya in Indian Ocean. Now let's start our debate. Let's start with the proposition side, Honorable Mohammed Saeed.
Thank you, the chairperson, the proposers, the opposers, the panelists, the judges, plus you, the audience. Standing before you is Mohammed Saeed as the proposer of our today's debate that says Uganda as a landlocked country sharing a border with Kenya should be granted the right to own and share access to the Indian Ocean with Kenya. What's landlocked country? It's a country that has no access to a water body or an ocean or a sea. So Uganda does not border an ocean or a sea, but it borders like lake, if you know, Lake Victoria. So, starting with my points, I would like to start with a case study, Ethiopia and Djibouti. Ethiopia and Djibouti. Background, Ethiopia is a landlocked country since 1993, since when Eritrea became independent. It had no direct access to the sea, which affected trade and economic growth. So what was the solution? Ethiopia signed a long-term contract with Djibouti to use Djibouti part as this main access route. So what was the impact? 95% of Ethiopia's imports and exports now go through Djibouti, and this helped to build Addis Ababa-Djibouti railway to improve goods and movement. Another example is Rwanda and Burundi using Tanzania's port of Dar es Salaam. Background, Rwanda and Burundi are both landlocked countries, if you know. They are neighboring Uganda and Tanzania. So these two small countries are landlocked. So what was the solution? Tanzania granted them shared access to the port of Dar es Salaam through agreement under the Central Corridor. Impact is reduced transport time. Like when countries are transporting their exports or getting their imports, this increases the transport costs. And this strengthens the East African community. As you all know, the countries that are made up of East African community, they are Burundi and Rwanda are part of them. And if the economy of Burundi and Rwanda increases, this means also this will raise the economy of East African community, as they are also part of East African community. So the third case study is South Sudan using Kenya's corridor. Background. South Sudan is a landlocked country and depends on Sudan for exports. For example, Kenya agreed to include South Sudan in the Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia transport. Now, one of the cities or towns in Kenya, which is Lamu, is nearing or bordering an ocean, the Indian Ocean. So there is a contract there. So now South Sudan have now contract with that Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia transport, and this increased their economic strength. To start with my points, the first point is collective prosperity over territorial isolation. So sea access is not a privilege for one country. It is a regional asset. For example, if East African community, each country owns cities, gets access to an ocean, it means that the East African community has reached a goal which is a regional asset. The second point, and not the second point, but including the conclusion of the first point, prosperity is not a zero-sum game. When member rises, the whole region rises. For example, now if Uganda agrees with Kenya on Mombasa port, it means also Kenya will enjoy some costs from Uganda. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Honorable Said, for telling us that also other countries share borders, so Uganda should share with Kenya also. Now, let me call the first opposer, Honorable Salma
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Salma Abdurrahman, and our motion of today's debate says that Uganda, as a landlocked country sharing borders with Kenya, should grant the right to own and share access to the Indian Ocean. So you might ask yourselves, what are the landlocked countries? These countries are the ones that have no seaport at all. They don't have any port at all. So for us, the opposition side, we are saying that it should not, with the following reasons. First of all, for Uganda to own the Indian Ocean, if we allow Uganda to own the Indian Ocean, we are breaking the rule of sovereignty, which protects countries' borders and territory. So here is an evidence. This is the map of Africa, and Uganda is in there, which means Uganda is around there, as you can see. So for Uganda to reach the Indian Ocean, it must pass through Kenya. So if we allow Uganda to do that, we are totally betraying Kenya, because that's Kenya's territory. So some of you might use the excuse of the international laws. So the international laws states that the landlocked countries can access, but not own it. So, and some people are saying that if the laws have made Uganda use this land, why are we not agreeing with this? No, absolutely no. The international laws allowed those countries who have no seaport to actually use it to share. Like Uganda uses the Mombasa port to access its imports and exports, just like that, but it does not have the right, or the international laws does not give Uganda the right to own the Indian Ocean. So here are the examples of the countries that negotiated for it, to share seas. The first countries are Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ethiopia became landlocked country when Eritrea gained its independence in 1993. So Ethiopia did not demand to own the Red Sea, but it negotiated for it. So some of us has watched the speech of His Excellency Museveni, and he said that the Indian Ocean belongs to me, not him. The Indian Ocean belongs to the Ugandan people, but the way he structured those words shows that he said it's a must, and then he said, where is my ocean? So, well, if we are following the international laws, it does not give him the right to demand the president of Kenya. He has the right to negotiate for it, but he does not have the right to demand the Indian Ocean. And automatically, geographical map shows that Uganda it's a landlocked country, by the way. So as the opposition side, we are saying, therefore, since Uganda is demanding to own the Indian Ocean, and Kenya is there, and then they are using the excuse of international laws, we are against to give Uganda the right to access or own the Indian Ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Salma, for telling us that Uganda doesn't have the right to demand for the Indian Ocean. Now let me call the second proposer, Honorable Abdel Nasser.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Abdel Nasser. I am proposing the motion of today's debate, which states Uganda, as a landlocked country sharing border with Kenya, should be granted the right to own and share access to Indian Ocean with Kenya. So a question comes that why Uganda needs to access Indian Ocean. Uganda, first of all, is a landlocked country and depends on Kenya's Mombasa port from import and export. So what happens if Uganda gets its own access to Indian Ocean? It will depend on itself and bring goods without no need of Kenya's Mombasa port. Direct ocean access will reduce the transport and costs, make trade faster and help economic growth. If Uganda accesses the Indian Ocean, now in Kenya, they judge them a tax that using for the port of Mombasa with Kenya. They pay money to use that ocean. But if they own or access Indian Ocean, they will not change the money, or they will be independent for themselves. So why does Uganda focuses on Kenya, not other countries, Tanzania and other countries in East Africa? Kenya has the nearest major port in Mombasa and strong existing transport links and roads and railway pipelines. Kenya is also legally committed to helping landlocked countries to access to the sea under the regional agreements like Sudan. So let me start my first point, economic development. Uganda depends on Kenya ports like Mombasa for international trade, but if Uganda accesses the Indian Ocean, Uganda, they will use the transportation of boat charges, lower the cost of import and importation, increases the rate competitiveness, and boosts the national income and economic growth. Historical and geographical disadvantage. Uganda didn't used to be a landlocked country. Its border were created during the colonial, giving access to the Indian Ocean helps to remove the historical inequalities and gives the Uganda the same development opportunities. Economic growth for the entire East Africa. If Uganda becomes stronger and economically, it increases trade inside East Africa community, more taxes, investment and development projects, and stronger regional trading. Thank you.